How are you doing today, my lazies? Today we're extending the How to Fix the DCEU series with the infamous Justice League live action movie. I'll go over both the cinematic release and the Snyder cut respectfully to show the good and bad with both. Now let's dive in. Starting with the tragedy of the cinematic release. This movie was bad for so many different reasons. They tried to take the Marvel route and incorporate corny comedy in between, but the moments they chose just didn't hit at all. Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Cyborg have plenty of funny moments they could have taken inspiration from if they wanted to incorporate comedy without going out of character. Batman is the most serious person, so having subtle comedy that seems like sarcasm but is actually real could have been a way to do that for him. Diana is like Starfire, where she's completely out of touch with humanity and might say weird things in between sometimes. Flash, at least Wally West, is like the king of comedic timing in the animated properties. The Barry Allen they tried to use functioned more like Wally, so they could have incorporated his comedic timing to lighten the mood. This is the first non-funny Cyborg rendition. Even in the more serious animated films, he was funnier than what they tried to do in this movie. They could have hired actual comedy writers to get the comedic flow. But the series was already established to be anti-MCU, showcasing the gritty foil to the light-hearted adventures of the MCU. There's a ton of money that can still be made focusing the DCEU on a more adult or teenage-centered audience. They have the potential to hit every target audience with this property, as they have plenty of characters to use for child-centered audiences like Shazam, Wonder Girl, Cyborg, the rest of the Teen Titans, Flash even, and there's plenty more. Trying to mix and match is a terrible marketing strategy, as trying to please every audience inevitably forces none to enjoy it. It's happened too many times for this to still be the formula they tried to use. Trying to make the Justice League like the Avengers just didn't work, and they're vastly different teams. The CGI was terrible in this rendition, especially the infamous chin shot from Superman, which didn't make sense considering he's been revived, so why wouldn't he grow facial hair? But I digress. The way they animated Flash's speed was so awkward, and the dramatic sex moan from Wonder Woman was unnecessary when Superman headbutted her. Glad they cut that from the streaming release. Having Batman and Superman fighting again didn't make sense to me, as they literally put aside their differences to work together to fight Doomsday, but now they're beefing again? Because what exactly? Is it Martha again? Stop making your daughters Martha at this point. For both cuts, this Superman is supposed to be a novice in training and very drained, considering he's just been revived. But this movie just makes it seem like he's completely unbeatable. Having him wash Steppenwolf so easily should have been a bit more of a struggle, as this Superman isn't even fully established yet and is supposed to be weakened. Using a mother box to revive him was weirdly unnecessary, as we already have his fortress active, so why not have Eradicator show the team how to revive Clark? Would have worked perfectly, considering they said his body went missing in Batman v Superman. That would have made more sense while setting up a storyline for Man of Steel 2. Adding Cyborg so early was a terrible decision, but sticking with their version, this rendition had no context to where he came from or why he exists in this team so early for the casual fan. Flash was gonna be my favorite to see on the big screen, but Ezra's weird portrayal, awkward running style, and terrible comedy in this rendition just made me not even like him specifically as the Flash. They literally have ties to the CW Arrowverse actors, writers, and special effects team, so why not just improve what they failed on and make it cinematic? You're telling me that a live action show had better CGI and special effects than a multi-million-dollar budget movie? The story itself was too grand for a first crossover, as it needed a story for each character before having them come together, and they just didn't. No context to how everything came together besides Batman looking at a list. If they wanted to start the series with this movie, then build single movies out of it after, that would have worked significantly better. Establish the team with no context to build anticipation, then release singles to connect to the overall picture. Could have even started with Batman v Superman and create the world there. Now, this version was simply brilliant, but it did have cheat codes since it had time to see the original idea fail so massively that they had to release this cut. So it gave more time to fix the mistakes of the original while adding in the criticism from the original cut. This was a masterpiece of cinema, but that doesn't mean it didn't have major flaws that needed to be addressed. For one, I can see why the studio wouldn't release this version considering how low people's attention spans have gotten and how dreadfully long this movie is. You're telling me it takes almost 4 hours just to get your vision through? This was unnecessarily long and still felt out of place and too ambitious. The black and white version made everything seem significantly more epic and intense, so I actually loved that version significantly more, but again, there were still major issues that needed to be addressed. Snyder should have explained his vision before releasing this cinematic series. If people understood what you were trying to do in the first place, it would have given you more support in what you're trying to create with this universe. As a single movie, unconnected to the others, it's simply brilliant. But trying to connect it to Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Shazam maybe, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman just didn't feel necessary. Nothing in the singlets, other than the big event movie and Man of Steel, even connected to this movie. Cyborg doesn't even get a movie, and Flash doesn't either. We're building their stories in this movie, and that's too much fluff that could have been saved for single movies to add them to the league gradually. Other than the CW Flash show, Doom Patrol, and Teen Titans, people don't really know about Cyborg, Flash, and their origin. So that would have made for great single movies. You know how pivotal you can make all these characters being used in their own singlets? The marketing value would be insane at the time since people were still on the hype with the CW Arrowverse, and Young Justice was reviving DC at the time to fill the void that Teen Titans created. Flash has so many stories and ways to shift the entire narrative of the series, and it's shown in the CW Arrowverse for reference. There are literally infinite possibilities that you could work with to make this movie stand out while building the big bad. Darkseid is a greater villain than Thanos, so copying the search for the Infinity Stones trope with the mother boxes was awkward and unnecessary. If you wanted to create that same journey, just have everyone find pieces of the anti-life equation itself. That would have created a perfect foil to the Marvel Infinity Saga that they were trying to copy so bad. The biggest issue with this movie and series as a whole is that they didn't want fan help or to even learn about the characters and stories so they can create their own original versions. But that's not how that type of writing works. Look at the MCU flops and you'll see that formula doesn't work on pre-established properties. If they wanted to create something different, they should have read the individual characters and made the actors read them as well so they understand the actual characters first, then build a story around them. They have too many big name Justice League villains to pull from. Vandal Savage, Darkseid, Brainiac, Anti-Monitor, Trigon, the Injustice League, Justice Lords, and the list goes on with creative villains and villain teams that could be established. Hell, like I said in the Batman v Superman video, they could have saved Doomsday for this movie instead and had Darkseid as a cameo to build anticipation for him. They could have even went the Brainiac route and made a journey to learn how to defeat Doomsday for good and have both villains in a three-way battle series. There's so many ways this movie could have been fixed, written, and salvaged. So while this was a valiant attempt and masterpiece with its art and cinematography, the vision being created just wasn't interesting enough since it already flopped before, and then the movies before and after already left a bad taste in viewers' mouths. If he was going to commit to creating the Injustice verse and then flashpoint it to something else, he should have stuck with that vision completely instead of combining too many storylines that didn't mesh well. Making the theme of the series centered around the Dark Knight Returns story while trying to combine the Darkseid situation and center everything around Superman somehow to make an Injustice verse was not the greatest combination of stories. I was excited for the Snyder cut, but I'm not excited for the Snyderverse to continue if they actually follow through with it. My inquisitive nature makes me curious about everything, but I'm not excited to see the verse continue to fail since it can't commit to a theme or even connect its movies correctly. Seeing the Injustice verse come together would be epic, just not with the Snyder vision. I was already opposed to the Snyder vision in its inception as a kid when it first started coming out, considering how fast everything was unfolding without enough build-up, and even after realizing what the vision was, I still wasn't excited. Having more life experience and business knowledge now, it's not worth investing in since the direction is all over the place now. If Aquaman and Wonder Woman sequels didn't flop so bad, I might have been slightly more curious, but those sequels just solidified it's not even worth it. Let me know your thoughts and theories about the Justice League live action renditions. Like, share, subscribe, and until next time, stay lazy.